Under the black waterline of the Black Sea, a single pulse of infrared light cuts through the darkness. Then another. Then hundreds. At 02:17 local time, 200 Ukrainian drones rise from the horizon like a tide made of static. Their wings whisper against the cold air, their propellers in perfect synchronization. From Sevastopol's early warning radar, it looks like sea clutter, seagulls, maybe wind shear. Nothing to report. For months, Russia believed its spy fleet untouchable. The Priazovia, a $40 million reconnaissance vessel, drifts 28 nautical miles south of Cape Fioland. Standard patrol. Standard silence. The deck lights dimmed, antennas sweeping the air every 8 seconds. Below deck, sonar tracks nothing but shrimp noise and engine resonance. The crew is bored. At 02:19, the first blip appears on a secondary scope. So faint, it could be a glitch. Range, 17 kilometers. Bearing, 213. The operator blinks, recalibrates, the trace vanishes. He reports nothing. Above him, the drones descend to 30 meters, their navigation lights off, their optical sensors blinking in rhythm with the radar sweeps they're evading. Each airframe carries less metal than a lawnmower. Composite shells, plywood wings, painted foam. But together, they form a moving radar mirror, one that bends reflection into noise. The Black Sea surface amplifies the deception. Every pulse bounces twice, splitting each target into 6 false echoes. The ship's computer filters them out as interference. At 02:21, the Priazovia sends a coded burst to base command. Routine systems check. The signal travels clean for 2 seconds before it fractures. The drones have begun broadcasting on the same frequency. Microbursts timed to the exact millisecond between Russian pings. To the receiver, it looks like the ship is talking to itself. The officer of the watch leans over the console. The bandwidth meter flickers red. Data feedback. He orders a reset. The screen blanks, reboots, and comes back to life showing 0 contacts within 20 kilometers. The ship is now blind. The first impact isn't explosive, it's electromagnetic. A drone skims the stern at 8 meters altitude, releasing a shaped EMP pulse designed to overload the antenna grid. The signal receivers fry in sequence: navigation, satellite, encrypted relay. The bridge lights flicker, then die. The ship's voice goes silent. On shore, operators in Crimea see the telemetry collapse in real time. The icon labeled Unit 427, Priazovia, freezes mid-path, heading 148 radar, then disappears. Command orders visual confirmation. The nearest patrol craft is 90 minutes away. Too late. At 02:23, the second wave hits. Drones swarm the hull, some diving, some circling. Each carries a single payload, thermite capsules targeting sensor domes and optical masts. When the first ignites, the flare blinds the night cameras across Sevastopol's coastal network. To headquarters, it looks like sunrise. The crew scrambles. Fire suppression systems engage automatically, but the thermite burns at 2,500 Traberses, hot enough to melt steel brackets and optical housings. Within 40 seconds, every upper deck sensor is gone. The radar mast collapses like wet cloth. The navigation officer switches to manual steering, but the digital compass loops north-south in infinite recalibration. From a satellite over the Black Sea, the ship glows white on infrared. A single bright pixel expanding across a calm surface. In Bucha, analysts record the feed and mark it confirmed impact. No radio chatter, no counterstrike, only the slow tilt of a hull losing balance. At 02:27, the drones alter formation. Half pull back to hold perimeter at 3 kilometers. Half descend to 5 meters above the waves. Their altimeters read pressure alone. No GPS, no radio. They move by pattern recognition, wave crest intervals, thermal gradient, compass drift. Machines reading the sea like blind sailors. Then, a flash under the bow. The last functional radar emitter overloads and explodes outward. The hull plating peels. Smoke coils along the deck. Inside, auxiliary generators engage, but power lines melt in seconds. Every circuit burns open. The control room floods with black vapor and red light. From the shore, silence. No distress beacon, no identification ping. The Russians still think it's a communication failure. They launch an Il-38 patrol to investigate. Its radar sees only foam trails. By Oro 2:33, the Priazovia is burning quietly, half submerged, its thermal signature flattening as water reaches the reactor bay. 2 crew attempt to launch lifeboats, but the cranes jam from heat warping. Above them, drones hover in a slow orbit, recording. Each sends encrypted footage east. 40 minutes later, only ripples remain. The Black Sea closes. The Russians have lost their most advanced reconnaissance ship without a single missile fired. At 03 AU, the first news alert crosses an encrypted Ukrainian channel. Blind spot confirmed. Analysts begin compiling spectral data, replaying the drone telemetry, reconstructing the attack frame by frame. They count the heat signatures, 198 returning, 2 missing. Mission efficiency, 99%. At the same moment, Moscow's defense network begins rerouting all coastal surveillance to satellite backup. Operators search for the missing feed, unaware that the loss isn't electronic, it's systemic. Every frequency, every eye, every sensor that could have seen the attack was fooled by plywood, patience, and light. For months, Russia thought its spy fleet was untouchable. Until that morning. And in the command rooms, where the screens still glow static blue, no one yet understands that what just sank wasn't only a ship. It was 6 weeks of intelligence, gone in 6 seconds. At 0311, the data begins to move again. Streams of encrypted telemetry flow eastward from an improvised command post near Odessa. Operators are silent, eyes fixed on screens filled with green vectors. Each one is a returning drone, tracing a route across the Black Sea. The network pings once, twice, then stabilizes. 2 drones are missing. The others broadcast low-bandwidth footage of something that looks like sunrise where there shouldn't be one. In Kiev, the operations board labels the mission complete. The name attached to it, Horizon Sweep. Analysts start isolating the data: optical, acoustic, electromagnetic. In the footage, the Russian ship's lights blink twice before disappearing. Heat sensors show the hull breaking along the midline. The explosion pattern confirms it wasn't ammunition. It was circuitry imploding under its own load. By dawn, the Russian Ministry of Defense issues a 2-line statement. Communications loss with reconnaissance vessel. Investigation ongoing. But satellite photos already tell a different story. A slick of oil stretches 4 kilometers southwest of Fiolant. Debris fields scatter like grains of sand. The ship is gone. Inside Russia's naval command at Balaklava, the air is cold and fluorescent. Officers replay the radar logs. Every trace ends in noise. No warning, no missile alert, no hostile radar locks. The only anomaly is a flock-sized interference spike 20 seconds before signal loss. The log labels it avian clutter. That single line will become evidence in a future report on why an entire vessel vanished under full surveillance. The search begins at 0520. 2 patrol boats reached the coordinates, finding only charred insulation and melted metal. They collect fragments of composite wings, light, porous, anonymous. No serial numbers, no transponders. A diver brings up a section of hull marked 427. The numbers are half burned. The officer on deck writes one note in the margin: "Impact from above." Meanwhile, Russia's Black Sea Command scrambles to seal its blind spot. Every coastal radar shifts range, every transmitter reboots. But the systems themselves are compromised. The drones' EMP bursts had pushed residual current through the antenna arrays, degrading their calibration crystals. The beams now tilt 2 degrees off true north. A perfect misalignment, invisible to the human eye. By 07:01, the naval grid begins looping. False echoes appear over the Caucasus. Phantom signals along Crimea's coast. On the operator's screen, warships drift where there are none. Confusion spreads through encrypted channels. Commands repeat, contradict, vanish. What began as a single ship lost turns into a communications blackout across 2 fleets. At 07:43, a satellite belonging to an independent imaging company captures the first high-resolution frame of the wreck. The ship lies on its side in 23 meters of water, still venting heat. International analysts tag the location. Within hours, the image circulates through defense networks worldwide. NATO surveillance confirms the coordinates. In Washington, London, and Warsaw, the feed updates with a single annotation: confirmed neutralization of SIGINT platform. Back in Moscow, the response moves from analysis to containment. Air defense brigades receive orders to activate low-altitude radar nets along the coast. The problem: every station is already overburdened with calibration errors. The new data only deepens the noise. Each radar beam now reflects off thermoclines created by dawn air layers, producing ghosts stacked like paper. At 08:00, the Kremlin's internal security network isolates the first hypothesis, that the drones were guided by external satellites. But Ukraine's own systems had been silent. The coordination came from an adaptive AI node using preloaded terrain models, each drone functioning as a node in a self-healing swarm. The control algorithm redistributed navigation when GPS interference appeared, keeping the formation intact without radio contact. The method wasn't new, but the execution was. The drones adjusted to radar pulse rhythm instead of avoiding it, matching the wave cycle so precisely that the reflection merged with background interference. To every Russian sensor, they looked like weather. By mid-morning, the attack footage circulates through encrypted Western channels. Analysts watch the ship vanish frame by frame. They slow the video to identify the pulse pattern in the reflections, a sequence of alternating power levels, one long, one short, one long. It's not random. It's a synchronization code between the drones. Each wing acts as both transmitter and receiver. The swarm was talking to itself. In NATO briefings, the term adaptive silence is written on whiteboards. It means communication through reflection, no active signal, only harmonized echoes, invisible to interception. The implications are immediate. Conventional jamming is obsolete. At 10:15, Russian state media broadcasts footage of calm seas, calling reports of the sinking fabrications. But in satellite command centers across Europe, the data contradicts it. The infrared record is immutable. Every frame shows a ship-shaped heat bloom fading into gray. In Sevastopol, engineers begin replacing servers. The destroyed sensors had been tied to a single data link system feeding Russia's southern reconnaissance chain. With that node gone, the network loses coverage over 400 kilometers of coastline. Blind zones open like wounds. By noon, foreign analysts conclude the attack's purpose wasn't destruction. It was disruption. 6 weeks of intercepted communication, SIGINT archives, and sensor calibration tables had been stored on board the Priazovye. When the ship sank, so did the decrypted telemetry of every Ukrainian sortie logged since September. Entire intelligence histories erased in minutes. The real loss isn't the metal, it's the data. Algorithms, encryption seeds, key exchanges, all submerged. The Russian naval grid must start from zero. In the afternoon, storm clouds roll across the peninsula. The rescue vessels withdraw. The burned fragments are sealed in containers and sent to Taganrog for analysis. Inside one, a single carbon plate still carries a serial microcode etched by acid. The inscription reads MN42, a Ukrainian marker, proof of origin. At 15 UO, in Kyiv's operations bunker, technicians compile the final report. Success probability, 97%. Mission duration, 88 minutes. Objective achieved. The footage ends with a single frozen frame. Black water, broken reflection, and the faint shimmer of returning wings. That night, Russian defense networks begin to fracture further. Calibration data refuses to sync. The fleet's radar returns overlap in mirrored patterns. Ships appear duplicated across screens, phantom copies of themselves. A silence settles across the Black Sea, measured, electronic, absolute. And somewhere in that static, the second phase of horizon sweep is already forming. At 06 UO the next morning, the Black Sea is calm again. No flares, no engines, only drifting static on every frequency. Satellite eyes sweep the coordinates where the Priazovye once moved. Nothing returns. The horizon is clean. The operation is over. Inside a dim control room in Kyiv, analysts replay the final frames. 200 drones. One ship. 6 seconds between contact and collapse. The data from the wreck confirms every hypothesis. Electronic interference, adaptive synchronization, and total network paralysis. The mission's success isn't measured in destruction, but in the blueprint it leaves behind. How precision, patience, and coordination reshape modern defense. Weeks later, engineers begin extracting lessons. The new doctrine is simple: survival through distribution. No single node must ever hold all intelligence again. Every drone, every sensor, every ship becomes both collector and archive. Data redundancy replaces hardware superiority. Systems learn to live through loss. From these numbers grows a broader pattern. Energy efficiency becomes strategy. Lighter airframes, modular batteries, solar-assisted circuits. In human terms, the principle translates easily. Resilience through balance. Machines and people share the same laws. Small, consistent corrections prevent collapse. Overload destroys. The same AI that coordinated the swarm is repurposed into civilian grids. It manages energy flow in hospitals, balances wind and solar input across rural regions, recalibrates communication towers after storms. What was born from conflict evolves into infrastructure. A nation learns to heal with the same mathematics that once guided war. Technicians develop recovery routines, predictive maintenance for machines, but adaptable to people. 3 core practices emerge. First, rhythm, maintaining steady cycles, no sudden surges, no prolonged drain. Second, clarity, continuous diagnostics, knowing what systems run hot, which signals drift. Third, restoration, deliberate downtime, structured recalibration, allowing both circuits and minds to reset. By spring, the lessons become policy. Training manuals describe cognitive endurance as a key to both technological and personal stability. The same feedback loops that kept drones flying blind over open water now guide human performance. Micro-adjustments, quick recovery, and self-correction through feedback. On the surface, new drones rise, smaller, smarter, quieter. Their purpose is not attack, but observation, mapping soil moisture, tracking weather shifts, relaying medical supplies. The physics that once destroyed a warship now protects farmland and coastlines. The closing report of Horizon Sweep ends with a single paragraph. In systems of pressure, strength is measured not by resistance, but by adaptation. Redundancy is not waste. It is life insurance. The network that learns to breathe survives any storm. The last footage from the mission shows dawn over the sea, a mirror of gold and steel. Somewhere below, the wreck sleeps under sediment, its circuits cold. Above, new signals pulse, slow, stable, self-aware. Every system, biological or mechanical, returns to balance the same way. Through recalibration, conservation, and precise motion. The same discipline that saved machines now defines human endurance. Because in the end, the horizon never disappears. It only waits for whoever learns to see it clearly again.